Kirk Bible Read and Bob Rant. So I'm up in my upstairs office, but we're going to be heading downstairs soon because in my upstairs office, when we have a couple of warm days, it gets stinking hot up here. And JJ is right at my side telling me, let's go downstairs where it's much, much cooler. So the weather here today is not that hot, but the hot air rises. I don't know what it is. But it becomes a little bit unbearable up here. So rather than letting you see me sweating profusely, because it is like a sauna in here at the moment, we thought we'd come up and we'd give you our normal daily shot of the bay. So we'll get on with that first. Bit harder with the laptop than the camera to get you a good shot because I can't get as close. But that's Port Phillip Bay, very still, just very muggy. Not really hot, but just muggy. Over there, coming across, I get a whole, I can see both peninsulas from this window. It's a pity I can't get you to zoom in. There's some people out there paddling away in their little canoe, have a bit of fun in the water. Not my cup of tea, especially with the cup of Melbourne water. So anyway, we're going to head downstairs now. If I drop in or out, you'll know why. I'll come back on. I've also got my mouse in there. Better take the Aussie flag with me. There we go. We'll set that up downstairs. So we're now heading downstairs into my little office setup downstairs, which is where I do my work from. I do the podcast live stream from upstairs simply because better background, better view. But, she's an old rickety place, this one. I don't have, basically, I was pretty lucky. I had to take what you could get in Melbourne for real estate at my age, and I'm single. So it's not like I'm in a dual income household and I can't afford to pay, even though you're not allowed to do it. I can't pay rent up front, a couple of months like others do. I was told on my tick, I'll get our flag set up. Look at JJ. Let me get that round. JJ. That'll have to do. It was I forgot in my bookcase I had the old Chrissy decoration still up, so it made it a bit harder to do. So anyway, here we are down. Oh, sorry, hold on. Forgot I had my mouse in my pocket. That mouse. So yeah, do it from downstairs. Got the coolest tower fan on. And it's just much cooler down here. So save you guys having to worry about me. Oh, my God, have I done that? I might have done that. Bear with me, 30 seconds. I've left my glasses upstairs. Come on. All right, sorry about that, everyone. I can't do this without these. So we're all set now to go. So, yeah, much better down here, temperature-wise. Normally, I always do it from up there if I can, unless circumstances don't allow. But today, I'm just being a tad lazy. Oh, now I'm out of breath. I've been up and down those stairs about, 5 times. So, oh my God, I never figure this out. All right, I'll just have to do. I've just been fiddling around. I'm still getting the hang of these. Oh, here we go. There we go. So I'm still getting the hang of these podcasts. That is actually the true image. I've been doing all these podcasts and live streams in a mirror image, and I only just figured that out 2 days ago when I was doing a live stream for the kids I coach in basketball, and we're trying to teach them the techniques of shooting and all this sort of thing. And all of a sudden, all my right-handed kids were left-handed, and I'm going, "What the hell's going on there?" So all this time, didn't even realize it, and I didn't even realize there's a setting for it. You can put the image I send to you in a mirror image, which means left is right, right is left, blah, blah, blah. And I should have tweaked on, like when I put this book up, everyone kept telling me, you can't read it. And I'm thinking, just once I publish it, you'll be able to read it, being naive. So even at my age, you learn something every single day. It does beg the question, why in God's name would they, the people who do the software, put the default case as a mirror image? I don't get that one, but anyway, it is what it is. I'm fiddling around with other things. So forgive me, rough start for the day. This is why you need a producer, but it is Sunday, or is it Saturday? No, it's Saturday. This time of year, I don't know about you guys, but I lose track of the days so easily. So it's a Saturday. I blame the cricketers. I'll get onto the cricketers in a minute. But their 2-day test and put out my clock a little bit because I love sitting back at this time of the year just for the cricket. So only one reading from the Bible today, which is good. We're all up to date. January 3rd, John 14, 1 through 14. Jesus is the way to the Father. Jesus prepares his followers for he will no longer be with them. In answers to questions from 2 of his disciples, Jesus says he is the way to God. Do not be worried and upset, Jesus told them. Believe in God and believe also in me. There are many rooms in my Father's house, and I am going to prepare a place for you. I would not tell you this if it were not so. And after I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to myself, so that you will be where I am. You know the way that leads to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going, so how can we know the way to get there? Jesus answered him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one goes to the Father except by me. Now that you have known me, he said to them, you will know my Father also, and from now on you do know him and you have seen him. Philip said to him, Lord, show us the Father, that is all we need. Jesus answered, for a long time I've been with you all, yet you do not know me, Philip? Whoever has seen me has seen the Father. Why then do you say, show us the Father? Do you not believe, Philip, that I am the Father and the Father is in me? The words that I have spoken to you, Jesus said to his disciples, do not come from me. The Father who remains in me does his own work. Believe me when I say that I am the Father and the Father is in me. If not, believe because of the things I do. I'm telling you the truth. Whoever believes in me will do what I do. Yes, he will do even greater things because I'm going to the Father, and I will do whatever you ask for in my name, so that the Father's glory will be shown through the Son. If you ask me for anything in my name, I will do it. Very lucky people. Mind you, it is very interesting with Christianity, and there's a lot of people want to debunk it and all that. One of the simplest arguments I've ever heard and seen, get that flag in the place, is through his disciples, his apostles. Now, if I'm out there, let's say I'm pushing a Candace Owens or a Tucker Carlson, and the authorities came to me and said, listen, these guys are heretics, you've got to disavow them, they're full of shit, they're conspiracy theorists, blah, blah, blah. But I wouldn't hesitate. I'd say, yeah, screw Tucker Carlson, I'll disown him, not a problem. I don't want to, cop a jail sentence or whatever. But these guys were, the authorities and the governments and the politicians and the people in power, they tried to force them to disown Jesus. Not with the threat of jail, but with the threat of some of the most horrible deaths. I won't go through them with you. You can look them up easily. But ask yourself, if Jesus wasn't a true thing, why, and these deaths were all documented, why did these apostles go to their deaths on his behalf, swearing that he was the Son of God? If it wasn't the truth, there's no way. And if they didn't believe in what Jesus had been teaching them, there is no way a normal, sane person would go to such a horrible death to, stand by a person who they weren't sure about. Just wouldn't do it. We wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. There's some psychos that would do it, but these guys weren't psychos. They've written books that have stood the test of times for 2,000 years. For generations, they've stood the test of time. So, that's one of the best. That's a passage that applies to those guys, which should be able to give you a lot of vindication for Christianity. And you've also got the big thing I read. I was watching an article, a video the other day, and it was from a guy from a bishop or a holy person. Can't remember. I think it was a bishop or a priest or something. And he wrote some books in regards to Christian faith versus Muslim faith and the difference between Christ and Muhammad. Basically Christ came out here and preached peace. Muhammad preached killing anybody who wouldn't believe in Allah. All right. Christ believed in sacrificing your wealth, sacrificing family, dedicating yourselves to God. Where with Islam, you've got you're going to get 72 virgins when you go to heaven, and you do have to sacrifice, but by killing others, taking out the infidels. Christ preached turning the cheek to your enemies, where Islam. I'll try and find the quote for a later one, the video. Sorry, I think it was really good, but Christ preached turning the cheek to your enemies and forgiving them, whereas in Islam, it's about destroying your enemies and taking over their lands, their houses, their faith, and everything else. So there's so much contrarian beliefs, commandments, rules, whatever. They're so at opposite ends of the scale. It is ridiculous. So how anyone can compare Christianity to Islam is really beyond me. There are people on both faiths who've committed sins against God, if you want to call it that way. We're not talking about the people who say they're Christians but act in another way. We're not talking about people who are Muslims that might commit horrible sins. But the fact is, in the Muslim faith, you can find reasons to justify it. In the Christian faith, you can't. You can put forward reasons that would justify it, but you can't really find those reasons to justify it. In the Gospels and the New Testament, it works against that. But there are passages of the Gospels, if you read them, and I don't want to evangelize too much. It's up to you guys to read your Gospels and look into it because you get more out of it that way. But there is definitely things about fighting against false prophets, against enemies of the true God, all that sort of thing. So when you speak out against other faiths and people of the other faiths, especially ones who are breaching Christ's commandments, that's not necessarily a negative thing. I don't think that's necessarily a sin. And sin's an interesting thing. You've got your 10 commandments, then you've got Jesus' 11th commandments. You've got a whole bunch of commandments in the Bible, both Old and New Testament. But a lot of them are open for interpretation. So I got in a massive argument with my brother who's strictly black and white about the Bible. I won't go into it for respect to my brother. But, we both have different interpretations of what we've read in the gospel, for example. So we all have to come to our own terms with what the gospel means to us and the community. To me, the gospels are simple. It's our way of communicating with God and deciding what our life should be about. Read the gospels. You put 100 people in a room and they've all read the gospels. I come away with a different version of it. My theory behind that, it's not inconsistency. It's just that God has a different message for us all. So we can agree on an awful lot of it, but there's parts there that we can't agree on. So anyway, that's enough evangelizing. That was probably brought into practice because yesterday, if you watched my thing, I had a very large crack at Usman Khawaja. It's been interesting. On X, I put up probably half a dozen tweets having a crack at him after what I would consider a woeful press conference yesterday. And the response has been pretty big. And most of it, I think, has been in favour of what I've said. I've had, a small number of individuals that have tried to defend how Usman went about it in his press conference. Not many. It'll be interesting to see the reaction tomorrow at Sydney Cricket Ground. My guess, in Australia, people will get onto X and have their say. when we get to our sporting events, all that, we all just tend to shut up and cop it on the chin and just wait for it's all over and done with. People tomorrow are going to have to put up with all the announcements and all the screens and all the interviews and telling us what a wonderful guy Usman Khawaja is, where many of us will, in our hearts, think he's an arsehole. And I'm one of them. I don't mind saying it. I think he's a great cricketer. Got no problem. I don't think he's as good as what he thinks he is, but I think he's a decent cricketer and he's deserved his test. And when he bats well, he's a magnificent batsman. When he bats poorly, he's shit. And that's like a lot of the Australian batting lineup. I could say that about nearly all of them. Even Travis Head. Travis Head, when he's on, is magnificent to watch. When he's not on, and some of his attitudes to training and towards the fans and all that is abysmal. But when he's not on, he also goes cheaply. So which Australian batsman can't you label that for? So it's got nothing to do with Usman Khawaja being a Paki or an immigrant or anything like that. Aussies are just pretty tough on their sportsmen. We want them to perform well all the time and win all the time. It's that simple. That's why we bat above our average. Australians don't cop, one, average performances, and two, they don't cop arrogance. They don't cop cockiness. They don't cop people who don't have a respect for their country and the people that support them. Aussie's made millions out of playing a game where he hits a cork ball covered in leather with a big stick. If you want to keep it to its basic. I know I love cricket. I played cricket right till I was 27 when I was a kid. I loved it. I wish I was better at it. I wasn't blessed with the natural gifts that Usman's been given. His hand-eye coordination, especially that level, has to be unbelievable, as do all of them. But, he should be grateful that he's been given the opportunities in Australia to play 88 tests for his adopted country, which should be saying for my country. That's all he has to say, not his adopted country. But ever since he started, Usman's had a chip on his shoulder about supposed racism in a country that has given him the opportunity to represent them in the most well-known national sports team, who's given him a worldwide audience, who's given him a career where he's made millions, where he's actually found his wife, had his children in this country, all of this in Australia, where he will no doubt get sponsorships and jobs and gigs, especially with the woke left, for decades to come. This country has given Usman everything he's got in life, everything. Yet bizarrely, we've oppressed him somehow. He said in one of his comments, I want to make it easier for the next Usman Khawaja. I mean, my God, how good's Usman at it? He hasn't had it tough. I mean, I could give him thousands of examples of people out there doing it a lot tougher, that are white-skinned, that are Aussies, that are Anglos, thousands of people that aren't Pakistani. I mean, give me a break. Even if he was born and stayed in Pakistan, their most famous cricketer, Imran Khan, where is he now? He's rotting in a jail because he expressed his political opinion and stood for politics in Parliament. Usman in Australia can express his opinion whenever he likes, and nothing bad's going to happen. Then a few people get on X and call him out for being a dickhead. That's it. He will probably get a career with the ALP in politics if he wants it. If he walked up to Albo tomorrow and say, I want a safe seat at the next election, he'd get it. He wouldn't go to jail. And yet he tries to say that he's basically saying that Australia is still a racist country. Now, there's racism in every single country. Try that if you go to Japan. Japan's not going to recognize you as a citizen, Usman, because you're Muslim. Try that in China. You'll go to a concentration camp. Try that in India, where they hate Paki Muslims. Western society, stupidly, in my opinion, welcomes too many people with open arms that hate that flag, that hate this country. All right? It's just as simple as that. And for the worst ones, it's not most Australians. Most Australians will give everyone a fair go. I give everyone a fair go. I don't care about if I had a Paki Muslim kid come up to me as a basketball coach and said, Bob, I want to play basketball. I want to get to the top level. If his attitude was good and he meant it, I'd help him. No issue at all. I couldn't give a damn. As long as he had the right work ethic. As long as he didn't come into my gym every day whinging about how bad he's got it in this country while this country is giving him everything. It's about time Australians woke up to this bullshit there's too many Australians, and this one I'm calling out white Australians, too many white Australians that want to be comfortable with the narrative that Australia is inherently racist, when it is not. There is mountains of evidence to show that Australia is not inherently racist, even in our worst of days, that people might be able to put across. Did we have inherently racist people? Yes, we did. Do we have inherently racist people now? Yes, we do. I was watching a video of Billboard Chris today, and we get so wound up on X on the people that Chris, and I'm a big supporter of Chris. I think what he does is amazing. But we get so wound up at people who Chris interviews, whether they're pro for what Chris is saying or anti him. What we never look at, which I looked at today, is how many people just simply walk by in the background. And he was in somewhere in Canada, and there was literally hundreds of people that would look at his signs or not look at them, and they'd blissfully go on with their lives. There was an opinion by leftists on the radio this week that I furiously agree with. You've got 10% on the left that make a lot of noise. You've got 10% on the right that make a lot of noise. And then you've got 80% of normal Australians who just want to get on with life. Aussie's in the 10% on the left. You know, many would argue I'm 10% on the right, which is not true. You've only got to go through my feed and see how critical I am of many on the right. I would argue that I'm a pretty normal Aussie guy. And I think my life speaks to that. I go out in my work every day and I deal with all kinds of Australians, no matter their background, no matter their heritage, no matter their culture. But because I have an Aussie flag and because I speak out against people like Usman Khawaja, who don't appreciate this country, I am a far-right bigot. And the problem that people, I'm totally opposed to multiculturalism. I know I wasn't always that way, but I am now. The value of giving everyone a fair go probably led to multiculturalism in this country. So it didn't come out like the NDS. It didn't come out of a hateful feeling from Australian society. It came out for giving everyone a fair go. But the problem when everyone gives a fair go is nefarious people will take that fair go and twist it into something else. That's what Usman's doing. He's taken the fair go Australia's given him. Here's your Australian bag of cap. You played for Australia nearly 100 times, over 100 times if you include the one-dayers. You've had an amazing career. You've made a lot of money. You've got family connections. You've now got Australian-born kids, and you still piss on this country. It's just so annoying with all that. And there's a lot of good Australians from immigrant backgrounds with heritage from overseas that come into this country and love this country. I work with them. I work with 3 boys of Asian heritage yesterday in basketball. Their parents are lovely people. They love what this country's offered them. The biggest thing they're worried about is crime. Where's the crime coming? From third world countries, predominantly Muslim ones. That's the fact. People can argue and they can call you a bigot or racist and whatever. And I'm a person that argues against the NSN. I'm the person who argues against Nazis. I'm the person who argues against deportations. Now, there are deportations that need to take place, but not mass ones. If a person's immigrated to this country, made a good life, committed themselves to this country, are loyal to this country, pay their taxes, raise a family, work hard, build a business, work for a business, contribute to this country, and will die for this country, then they're Aussies. It's that simple. That's all you need to say as a politician. And then as a politician, you need to follow up, and this is when you're in an election. If you're in this country for nefarious means and you're going to hate and divide this country, if you're going to wish harm on anybody in this country, if you're going to try to control their lives on who they can believe in, what they can say, where they can go to, how they can assemble, you've got no right being in this country. If you're here to try and change the culture and the way of life in this country, you are not welcome. Be ready for a knock on the door and being sent back to where you came from. And we don't care how many generations you've been here. A citizenship certificate is not the only thing, not the only criteria or category to make you an Australian. You've got to believe in our way of life, our culture, the concept of a fair go. The Christian society built this nation and will always be the foundation of this nation moving forward. That is our culture. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's it. giving a person a fair go, appreciating the opportunities that this country has given you, giving us the best chance in life to create wealth for us and our families. That's what should be about being an Aussie. Being able to go out and do the things we want to do, whether it's to go to the beach, go to church, go to a shop, go to a shopping centre without the fear of being shot or stabbed. Being able to go to Christmas celebrations or going to the Christmas windows at Myer in Melbourne and not worried that you're going to have a bunch of Muslims coming down there making their chants, or burning down Christmas trees, or threatening you, or spitting on you, or outgoing in numbers. Those sorts of threats we see in Europe that are creeping in over here. Usman and people like Usman Khawaja are the biggest enemies of multiculturalism you can find. They say people like me are enemies of multiculturalism. We cause diversity. That's absolute bullshit. The people who actually are tearing down multiculturalism are the people with nefarious reasons who want to come in and take advantage of the multiculturalism the way it was brought in, and then use it as a weapon against the country that was gracious enough to allow them in here to provide them the opportunities. So Usman, shove your bullshit theories and ideology when the sun don't shine. Walk off to the sunset and enjoy your wife and your kids and your homes and all your wealth that this country has given you, and stop shitting on the place. That's what you've got to do, Usman. And tomorrow it'll be interesting. Usman, when he walks out to bat, whenever that is in this test, he should get roundly booed. I'll put nearly $1,000 on it now. I won't, actually, because I'll probably lose it. But it wouldn't surprise me, let us put it in that term, that when he goes out, he gets applauded. And he probably should be, for his career, not his opinions, because we're there about the cricket. And his cricket career has been a good one. And in Australia, we acknowledge that, and that's part of our culture. So there's a side of me that love to hear him getting booed, because he has shat on our country. He shat on the cap that he puts on the top of his head. He's taken advantage of it. But there's a side of me just for the pure cricket reasons, and that's nearly the people who go to the cricket. They will applaud him both onto the field and off the field. Yet when he finishes this test and he finishes his career, I'll guarantee you this. He will keep shitting on this country, the people in this country that are giving him opportunities, and he will keep trying to divide this country. He wants diversity. He calls for diversity, he says. He's a charlatan. He doesn't want diversity. He only wants his kind of diversity, which is to put as he said yesterday, these aren't my words, these are his, to put a proud Muslim Pakistani boy up on a pedestal. Well, we live in Australia. If you want to be a proud Muslim Pakistani boy, there is a Pakistani country you can go to. But you won't go there because you won't have the wealth. And the chances are if you speak up against the Pakistani military government, you're going to end up in jail or worse. So, and good luck to his daughters over in Pakistan trying to get an education. So he'll take advantage of everything Australia's got to offer for the rest of his life, but he'll never be grateful for it. Never. And he won't. Have you ever heard him saying those words? I want to thank the Australian community. I want to thank the Australian taxpayers for the dollars they've contributed to the Australian cricket. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had this chance to build this career. Where were those words yesterday? Where were they? I want to thank this country for giving me an opportunity I would never have to play sport at this level in that country. I want to thank Australia for allowing me to speak out about the politics that are important to me, that I wouldn't be allowed to speak out in my home, in my nation of birth in Pakistan. Where's that? I want to speak out to all the people of faith in Christian, Jewish, Hindu communities that allow me to celebrate my Muslim faith in Australia. Where was that comment? I want to thank the Australian selectors who, even dropping me, kept believing me and brought me back into this Australian cricket team, who showed faith in me when many didn't have any faith in me. Where was that thank you? He acknowledged Andrew McDonald, who talked him out of retirement. So... And then out of the other side of his cheek, he's having a go at the selectors who dropped him. So which one is it? You're saying a part of the Australian cricket structure supported you and wanted you to keep going, and then you're saying another part worked against you, that even players in your own team weren't having the same scrutiny as you were. Well, hold on. Cameron Green has been in the papers non-stop about his form. Marnus Labuschagne, was I'm pretty sure South African born, he's been nothing but full of pride for his country, but he's copping shit left, right, and centre. David Warner and Steve Smith cop their shit. So don't tell me that because you're Pakistani, you get criticism Every Australian cricketer gets criticism, every single one, maybe except for Bradman, but even Bradman had his critics. So it just pisses me off, and this is not just in cricket, this is across the board. I'm going to share something with you here that I had before, and this is the attitude of some immigrants. I'm not going to say all of them, of some. Let me share it. Oh, I've got to log in, sorry. So I've got to get you this because it just complements. I've got to log into X. Exactly what I've been saying about the attitude of many of the immigrants that come to this country. My question is, how do these people get in? How do they get into our country, and why do we have this attitude? Now, there was a lot of videos over the break about, New Year's celebrations and how they're virtually everyone of brown colour. For me, not even that bothers me. Most white Aussies probably, here's the absolute truth. Most white Aussies now, especially in Melbourne, probably in Sydney as well, we steer clear of the CBD. We just steer clear of it. Geez, I hope I've got this. I might have it in my comments. Because we just don't want to get in there. Look what happened at Carlton with the machetes. We just don't want to get into that sort of scenario. Oh, no, it must be in my comments. Sorry, guys. We don't want to get into a scenario where we're going to be confronted by gangs or thieves or, bashings or groups going at each other with machetes or things like that. We just don't want to do it. So here he is. Have a listen to this prick. I had another word for him, but that would have been. So this is an Indian immigrant. Into this new Australia. What an arrogant flog. Doesn't he have a face you just want to hit? I mean, seriously. I've got to be careful. I might get the police knocking at my door for saying something like that. But what an arrogant, narcissistic flog. I don't want his type in the country, this new Australia. When did we ever vote on this new Australia? Our country, again, opens our doors to pricks like this, and then they shove it in our face. And just like the Islamic community, what he's basically saying in that video is the Indian community is going to take over Australia. We're actually going to get the Indians versus the Muslims. And if you look at India's history, that's not a very good history. They are at each other's throats, killing each other all the time over these ideological battles. We don't want that in this country. Come to Australia, become Australian. Shock horror. I don't want to go to bloody India, for example, because it's a shithole. You can have your Indian buddy community. I don't want it. I want to live in the country that I was born in. Did I share that? I didn't share it. Sorry, I will share it. I think it's an important one to share it. I found it but didn't share it. Oh, what an idiot. Maybe he's right. Maybe, I don't know how much of that you heard. Sorry, guys. It's Saturday. There he is. Like I said, face you on a punch. Listen to this narcissistic rant.
And here's the thing about us Indian immigrants. We are some of the smartest and the most hardworking people in Australia. And so you will see more and more of us and more in prominent positions in the future. You will see Indian business owners doing better and better in prominent places. You will see Indian politicians as well. Now, as a white Australian, if that is something that is bothering you, then maybe you are the one who's not fitting into this new Australia. And here's the thing about us Indian immigrants. We are some of the smartest and the most hardworking people in Australia. And so you will see more and more of us and more in prominent positions in the future. You will see Indian business owners doing better and better in prominent places. You will see Indian politicians as well. Now, as a white Australian, if that is something that is bothering you, then maybe you are the one who's not fitting into this new Australia. And
this new Australia. I mean, God, I hate that. Mate, come to our shores, respect our country. Don't piss on us like that. Dad, Let's be honest. The reasons there's Indians coming into this country, this is the reason. It's not because, God, I've got to be careful here. There's so many of coming in, not because our politicians and corporates and all that want them here. They're coming in because they need them here to keep their power. That's it. It's not because they think they're wonderful people. These are useful idiots that they're bringing in so they can win certain seats. So corporates can have cheap labor, so they can keep salaries down, so corporate profits can stay up. I'm a capitalist. I've got no problem with corporatism, but there's a condition to that. You've got to look after the workers in those corporations to make sure their wages can afford a certain way of life. By bringing these people from third world countries in, they will undercut those wages because they will. It's not that they work smarter. It is that because they work cheaper. That's why we keep bringing in this mass immigration. It inflates. People talk about the housing prices. It inflates so many things. All right. So it inflates the profit margins for big corporates. It inflates political party seats for nefarious political party machines. It keeps politicians in power. Tony Burke sacrifices his Australian identity and the national interest of Australians and the lives of Australians so he can win his seat, which has a large proportion of Islamic voters. That's it. You have Liberal and ALP politicians kowtowing to the Indian community because they've got large proportion of Indian voters. They're not voting in Australia's interest. Sorry, they're not standing in Australia's interest. They're standing in the interest of overseas communities that have landed in their electorate. And they will push that agenda until the end of their parliamentary terms. It is a big problem we have got in this country. And I'll be honest, I'm not too sure how you solve it. And that's why the rise of calls from the far right for mass deportation is gaining in strength. Because there's even people that are reasonable people that have reasonable attitudes to immigration that can see this future coming and they don't want it. So we've got to find a way to resolve it. And we've got to find a way, hopefully, to resolve it far more peacefully than what some people are proposing. But at the end of the day, the Aussie culture, the Aussie way of life has got to be what we all protect. And people say there's no such thing. Well, that's garbage. I've lived that Aussie culture and way of life for many, many years. And it was a great culture, great way of life, still has the potential of being. But the basic thing is anyone who immigrates here has got to be, if you want to call it, indoctrinated into that way of life and leave their baggage behind. That's one simple way you can do it. If they won't do that, it then goes the next step. Where do you go to? And there'll be certain demographics of immigrants that will accept that already are accepting it. The Italians and Greeks accept that. Many of the Asian communities, the Chinese and the Vietnamese, even the Indonesians that come here, they all accept that. Where do they not accept it from? From the Middle East and from countries like Pakistan. So largely Muslim-dominated countries, the immigrants from those countries will not divorce their way of life because that's what they've been taught since kids. That's a fact. No one of our politicians want to say it. But I can say it because I'm not standing for politics. I might talk about it a lot, but I'm standing. That's my rant. And look, if there's well-meaning Muslims out there and they want to stay in, they want to acknowledge this country and they want to work for the benefit, there's hundreds of thousands in Israel, for example, Arabs that are Muslims that will go fight for the IDF. So, it's a very hard humanist sort of thing to be trying to take a position on because I've got no doubt there are good Muslim people out there. But the problem, you don't talk down, you don't shut up, you don't get rid of your arseholes. In Australia, if an arsehole pops his head up, we all come down on him, like we have with Usman Khawaja. So anyway, that's part of Aussie culture. I've ranted a bit. I've actually got a few comments, so that's a good one. I haven't had that before. Let's address them. I think they're all from the same person, ADG. Sure, we'll give you a shout out, ADG. Running out. We're awake to it, but like you said, about the sporting events, we just bite the pillow and wait for the welcome to country and other bullshit to be over before we can watch the game. So true. And another thing I do, for example, I don't go to a lot of the sporting events. I just can't justify the expense of it. I can watch it on TV. But, I will still watch movies, even with actors or woke leftists, as long as it's a good film. That's all. As long as it's a good film. I don't want to cancel anybody. But if they're a good actor and they're in a film, I just look past their politics. So that's another thing we've got to look past. You're not sharing your screen. Yeah, I figured that one out. Thanks, mate, for the heads up. Well, ADG is very active. Good on you, mate. No one should be in the public service if they weren't born in Australia. That includes politicians and front desk operators at Service Australia. I can understand the argument. I really can. And that's a bit what I said in my last comments. There's a lot of people in Australia. I'm the centre right. I'm on the centre right. I'm a conservative, blah, blah, blah. And I want to give everyone a fair go. And if people come to this country and can accept Australia as their country, accept everything we offer, be grateful for the thing, I wouldn't have issue with them working in there. But if all this bullshit keeps going, maybe what ADG says right there should be a valid point. And I'm open to anything a little bit to try and counter this. But that's what our politicians created. They're pushing good Australian citizens into positions they normally wouldn't want to go to. So ADG, I hear you. I'm holding fire on that one yet. But we'll see what you go. Oh, he has been busy. ADG again. There are enclaves of Indians in New South Wales Department of Housing giving Indians to their own race over Australians who have been on the list for longer. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens in other departments too. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not aware of that. I have not dug into that. I'll take your word on that, ADG. But there should be oversight on any government department to make sure there's no discrimination. Now, the big important word I said there is should. And, you know, what you should, ADG, if you've got any proof of that, is take it to a politician you can trust, you know, maybe One Nation, that, and get them to raise it, and then things would change, hopefully. But again, this goes back to the point. We're all willing to give people a go, but we're going to get to a point where good, fair-minded Australians, like, for example, if this is true, what AG is saying, we say that's bullshit. That's got to change. If it doesn't change, then good, fair-minded people are going to go, well, you know, we've given you a chance. Enough's enough. And that's where you're going to get a rise. And this is what I'm talking about. The biggest enemies to multiculturalism are people like Usman Khawaja, like that Indian I just showed. They're going to push good, well-meaning Australians further and further to the right. And they don't want to do that. You've only got to listen to some of the far-right preachers, what their plans would be if they ever came into government. It would be a nightmare. But people will get pushed so far until they land in that lap. And this is how Hitler came to power. And they say, you know what, I've had enough of this bullshit. I'm going to give this guy a go. So if you want to keep pushing Australia that way, if you want to end multiculturalism, if you want to end any fair-minded immigration, keep giving give rise to the voice of people like Usman Khawaja and the mate I just showed you. Keep doing that, and a lot of good, fair-minded Australians will say enough at some point. It'll come to a head. Now, we're nowhere near there, I don't think, yet, but we're getting there. I've got no doubt about that, and one of the reasons I do this podcast and live stream is hopefully we don't get there. Hopefully I can put some wiser brains in some certain people. But I don't know. There's sides of me saying it's not turning. There's other sides to say that there are some politicians that are finding voice. But how long is it going to take? You know, we've got to start seeing changes. It'll end up on the streets. It will. I don't want it to go there, but that's where it will go. Anyway, that's a big rant. ADG, good comments, mate. I really appreciate the fact you're contributing. Hopefully we'll get some more contributors on there. Pretty good rant for a Saturday, don't you think? I'll obviously be watching the cricket. I'll probably rant again on Usman tomorrow. He better make some bloody runs tomorrow. Or actually, if he makes a duck, I might be supporting the Poms for the first time in my life. It'll be interesting to watch it. So no doubt it'll get coverage. So, you know, we're in that bullshit again. So anyway, from me, a well-meaning, good Australian. I think I'm a good Australian. I work with everyone. For everyone who loves Australia. All right, God bless you. God bless your kids. God bless your grandkids. God bless your pets. Mine's sitting down here at my feet where he always is because he's a loyal Aussie dog, if you can see him there. God bless you all. Enjoy what is left of the holiday period if you're lucky enough to get one. And we will see you all tomorrow and we'll come on about the same time, 3:30 to 4. So if Australia's won the toss and batting, there's probably a fairly good chance Usman will be at the wicket by then. We'll probably be about 5. I will see you all tomorrow. Thanks and God bless. God bless this country.